Hello, friends, and welcome to Empower You 2 podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Paris, and I'm excited because you are in the building with me. You can be anywhere in the world, but you have chosen to be here with me, and I am so humbled and appreciative. Let me tell you about this show. Each and every single week, we continue to empower you to greatness that is truly going to help you, whether you are a person that have experienced a heartbreak, have gone through a divorce, or have endured levels of trauma of any kind, or you're just a person trying to rebuild their life and themselves, and now you are finally ready to live a life full of abundance, joy, and peace, then this show is for you. So with that said, thank you again for being here. I am extremely grateful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you because together we are empowered for greatness. You ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 39. I am your host, Natasha Paris, the empowerment strategist, as well as the transformational speaker. I am super excited about this particular episode, as always, because this is an opportunity for us to do what? For us to get better, for us to be able to be in a place where we are empowering ourselves for greatness, and we are taking our life to the next level. And so with that said, come on in, and I am so excited to be your host on this episode, and welcome to Empower You 2, episode 39, my friends, 39. Okay, so let's talk about what plagues many individuals, and that is negative thinking. Yes, my friends, negative thinking. You know, we're jumping right into this because guess what? Oftentimes we feel lost in our thoughts. And if you didn't know, I want to share some stats with you. Okay, it has been researched and said that every individual has close to about 70,000 thoughts a day. I'm going to say that again, 70,000 thoughts a day. In other words, it's those thoughts of, what is she looking at? Oh, why is he driving like that? Do I look beautiful today? Oh my gosh, I feel really dumb today. Oh, my husband is getting on my last nerve. This person on the train, oh, look at her hairstyle. It's those kinds of thoughts. And the best way to really explain it, my friends, is this: as though our thoughts are like a freeway. Our thoughts are like a freeway. They're constantly going and going. But the thing is that what's really disheartening is that out of the 70,000 thoughts that we actually experience every day, 80% of those thoughts are negative. Come on now. 80% of our thoughts are negative. That's a problem. And of course, 20% is positive. And so let's talk about the 80%. The 80%, because we can decrease those numbers if we make a conscious effort to do so. And so with that said, the topic and title of episode 39 is how to combat negative thoughts. Come on now. That's it. How to combat negative thoughts or negative thinking. And so one of the things that I lean on is, of course, my expertise as a licensed clinician. And oftentimes people come into my office with the chief complaint, and that is they are feeling levels of anxiety, they're feeling levels of depression, and I often begin to ask them, especially in the realm of anxiety and fear, is what are you thinking? What is it that you are thinking about? Are you fearful of a specific event happening, or are you stuck in the past, literally thinking that the past is going to eat you up and spit you out? Okay. And so when we talk about it from a clinical perspective, it is so important for us as human beings to be in the control of our thoughts. I must say that again, to be in control of our thoughts. In other words, you may not have the ability to not think it, but you sure do have the strength and the power. You know what I say about power? The power to not entertain it. Oh, that is good. You may not have the strength to not have it continue to come, right? But you sure do have the ability and the strength to prevent it from staying. Okay, I said it a different way, but absolutely, you get my point. And so we're going to talk about that because let me say this. I personally have negative thoughts that come through my mind, but I am conscious of my thoughts and I can decide to keep them around, or I can tell them, go to bed, or don't come back, or get off the block. Come on now, get off the block. Get out of my neighborhood. And so we have the power to move out of those negative places and actually find solitude and peace. And I'm going to tell you how. Because one thing's for sure is that the mind is an extreme battlefield. There are wars going on in our mind, but we have the power with God's strength to actually combat those negative thoughts and move in a direction where we're not harboring those thoughts and it's not coming out in our own health, right? Because negative thoughts truly can exacerbate any mental health issues or concerns that you had before, or it can actually start them up. Yes, it can start those symptoms up where you was fine before, but now all of a sudden you are feeling depressed, you're feeling levels of anxiety, and of course what we know, it can actually impact you physically. So with that said, let's just talk about it. Okay, so let me use an example. I had a young woman come into my office as a licensed clinician. She came into my office and she was riddled with thoughts. How did I know? Because I can see it on her face. And she shared with me that it was difficult for her to focus on the positive things that were happening in her life. She had just recently got married. She had just recently started a new job, but she was unhappy. She suffered from extreme anxiety, and she constantly was thinking not so good things about herself, even though she had just recently gotten married and had a promotion happen at her job. She just was not in a place where she could change the trajectory of her thoughts. And so we really worked on that, getting her to change the direction in which her thoughts were going. And oftentimes what we know for sure, and I can attest, sometimes those thoughts are so tempting to really dissect. And what you find is that when you start paying attention to those negative thoughts, they get amplified. Oh my goodness. It is like watching a movie in your head. Like it has the suspense, it has the drama, it has the comedic phrases, it has the romance, all of that in your head. I mean, yeah. And so she talked about how oftentimes it was hard for her to get out of bed. It was hard for her to really focus on her husband because she was so riddled with thought. So let's talk about how can you deal or how can you combat negative thinking? Because let me say this to you, my friends. Let me say this. Negative thinking can be a very difficult challenge, but there are several effective ways that I have supported tons of my clients as well as my students in my Empower You counseling program. And these are the strategies that I honestly have shared with them. And I'm asking you to write these down so you can become effective in combating your negative thinking. Because remember, we all have negative thinking, but it's what you do with it. And also it's how you handle it. Okay, so the first thing is the first first strategy is to recognize and acknowledge your negative thoughts. Do not be in a place where you're pretending that it doesn't exist. Come on now, right? You have to be in a place where you're acknowledging it. And how do you do that? Start by simply being aware of the thoughts that come into your mind. I often say, think about what you are thinking about, right? And then, of course, as those thoughts arise, then you acknowledge them without judgment or criticism. Again, you acknowledge that it exists and you do not judge yourself for having those thoughts. Okay? Because really, it's not so much the thoughts, right? But it's what you do with the thoughts that becomes a major concern. Okay? So the second strategy is my friends, I want you to challenge your negative thoughts. Question the validity and accuracy of your negative thoughts. In other words, I want you to look for evidence that supports or contradicts it. So if you have a negative thought that you're not smart enough, right? That's the negative thought. In other words, combat that negative thought that says that you're not smart enough with something or an event that has happened that you came out on top. You showed that you were smart, right? For example, another one would be, you are not pretty enough. I mean, we have these critical voices in our head. And how you combat that? Oh, well, you know what? Every time I walk outside, there's some guy trying to holler at me. Come on now, let's make it plain and simple. All right. So you want to combat that thought. The third one is to practice self-compassion. I've said this throughout all of my episodes, right? That grace is sufficient for you, as the good book says. You have to practice self-compassion, which means not judging yourself for the thoughts that you have in your mind. In other words, it is so important for you to treat yourself with kindness, my friends, and understanding, just as you would a good friend. Because guess what? We tend to give ourselves the shortest end of the stick, and we give someone else, a complete stranger, and we give to other people outside of ourselves. And so we have to stop that. Number 4, it is so important to reframe your negative thinking. Try to reframe that. What that means is that you're going to put it in a different pair of glasses or in a different picture frame. In other words, what reframing looks like is that you're going to try to change your negative thoughts into more positive and realistic thoughts. I look for alternative perspectives and focus on finding solutions or positive aspect. So if you were in a relationship that was very toxic and very emotionally draining, how you reframe that is, man, you know what? I needed that because in order for me to get to my next level, it was not a good situation for me. And that's the reason why I left. Justify your thoughts, but at the same time, do not stay there and focus on the thoughts. That in itself is important. My 5th and final point is I want you to seek support when needed. Look, here at Empower You 2 podcast, as a host, I also facilitate Empower You 2 counseling. And I'm telling you, it is changing people's lives. And how I know is because they tell me. It is important for you to have levels of support that comes from a trusted adult or friend or family or professional. Because guess what? Sharing your thoughts and feelings with someone you trust can provide a comfort and perspectives. It's important for you to understand that you are an amazing individual, right? And because you're an amazing individual, you're going to have negative thoughts off the break. Yes, Brooklyn comes out often. It's important for you to make a decision that this is not the place for you. So you get it, my friends, you get it. So let's cover the 5 techniques and strategies to combating negative thinking. What did I say in the beginning? I said that we all have close to about 70,000 thoughts a day. 80% of it are negative. 80% of our thoughts are negative. Okay? So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to recognize and acknowledge your negative thoughts. Start by simply being aware of the negative thoughts that come into your mind. Like I said, think about what you are thinking about, my friends. Number 2, challenge those negative thoughts. It's important for you to question them. Look at the evidence that says it is what it is. And oftentimes there's no evidence. It is all in our minds. It's fictional. It is not true. Okay, so I want you to not only acknowledge them, but I want you to challenge them. This third is practice self-compassion. It's important for you, as I've said before, to give yourself grace. To give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. Do not beat yourself up for having those thoughts, because if you beat yourself for having those thoughts, you actually end up worse than you were when you first started. In other words, your self-esteem is going to be hit on. It's going to be abused, right? And we don't want that, okay? We don't want that. What is the 4th point? The 4th point is to reframe your negative thoughts. What that looks like is you're going to turn those negative thoughts into a more positive thought, like a lesson that you learned about your life. Yes. Take that information and reframe it. Reframe those negative thoughts. And of course, number 5 is I want you to seek support. Reach out to trusted friends, family, or professionals like myself, my friends, for support. Because when you share your thoughts out loud with someone you trust, believe me, it changes things, right? Because you can then see that now your thoughts might be a bit ridiculous. And also the person that's with you, who you're sharing thoughts with, would actually be able to say, this is what I perceive is happening, or this is what is happening, and I think that you need to change it. Okay, so it's important for you to surround yourself with people that love you, that care about you, and that want you to be successful in all areas, financial, spiritual, health, right? Absolutely. So, my friends, as we wrap up, I want you to remember managing your negative thinking takes time and practice. You have to, because our mind goes on default, right? And our default mechanism is, let's focus on this thought. Let's give it attention. Let's watch the comedy that happens in my mind. Let's watch the suspense that happens in my mind, right? We don't want to do that. So I want you to know that everyone has them, but it's about how you manage them, okay? So I want you to be, of course, I've said it over and over before, but I want you to be kind and patient to yourself and gentle throughout this process. Because guess what? This process is not an easy task. It's about you making a conscious decision to say, I am not going to entertain negative thoughts. God help me. And you do it on a daily basis. And for some people, it's every hour. Okay? Every hour. But that was a commitment that they made. And so those are the keys, the golden nuggets for combating negative thoughts. My friends, if this resonated with you, I want you to hit that 5-star button, and I want you to subscribe to my YouTube page as well as this podcast. So with that said, I want you to be empowered for greatness, because remember, my friends, without greatness, there's no you, and without you, there's no greatness. I'm your friend, your host, Natasha Paris. Bye. If you are loving this content and our time together as we become empowered for greatness and you want to connect with me more, I would love for you to come and check out my Self-Empowerment Scholars. It's my monthly empowerment sessions where we take all of the materials learned on the podcast and apply it and study it and take it to the next level. So join me over at Empower You, the letter U, 2, right? The number 2.com/join, or you can text the word empower to 571-464-6511. That's text the word empower to 571-464-6511. Also, if you've ever gained an ounce of wisdom or the episode resonated with you, I simply ask that you do 4 things. The first is I want you to subscribe right now if you have not done so already. The second is I want you to hit that 5-star button on your favorite platform. The third is I want to hear from you. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear how it has resonated for you. In addition, the last, I want you to share this message with someone. It allows us to spread the message of empowerment to those who are desperately in need. So I look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and I want you to be what? Empowered for greatness. See you soon. Bye.